What's going on, FPL managers? Welcome to a new video from Fantasy Football Scout. It's the deadline stream. We're half an hour away from the Gameweek 10 deadline. We did promise you Az on this stream, but he's had to duck out at the last minute. But we've still got Mr. Mark Southerns and his wildcard reveal, the main event. So happy with that. How are you today, Mark?
I'm okay. I mean, Az hasn't told us the truth, has he, basically, about that? Because basically what's happened since the award, we've both become a bit prima donna-like. And now we can't stand each other. And the only reason we do Black Box together is because our legal teams can't get us out of the contract. So basically, that's the real truth.
Unbelievable. So, fame has gone to your heads. Unbelievable.
It really has. But so we can't stay apart now where possible.
Brilliant stuff. Well, you've decided on your wildcard team, and we'll get to that in a minute. We've had a lot of in-depth discussion before the stream went live on your Salah benching rumours, which is... Oh,
no, there's no rumours. Don't say that. There's no rumours.
It's your own little thoughts about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable we're going to get this now, aren't we, until he does get a rest. Every week it'll be, is this the one where Salah gets benched? I guess, but... I mean,
I really can't see it myself, but I mean, you never know. You said last season that he did get benched once around this time, but I mean, he had a rest midweek, but you do say he's got Atletico up next, so we will see.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to worry about, and we're all going to speculate.
No. You got to start him, and you got to catch him, right? You just have to roll with it. Just hopefully make sure you do pick your vice carefully, though, just in case. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I put it on De Bruyne this week, which I'm not. I really hope that Salah doesn't get benched because I don't think De Bruyne is sure to start either, so that's going to be a bit of a pain. But I don't know. We'll get onto your wildcard team immediately, I think, and have a look through that.
Blimey, okay,
let's do it.
I mean, we'll get it up on screen then.
We've got lots and lots to talk about. Which goalkeeper to start this week? I've even had trouble thinking about that. So you've ended up with Jota and Foden as your 7.58 million options in the middle. A very popular Liverpool, Chelsea and City treble up at the
template.
Back. Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. Son, ready for game week 12 against a low morale Man United side. I think it's like a really good team. And you're starting Hwang over Mbomo.
Yeah, purely for the Monday Night Football. No, yeah, I mean, I do want to... It's nice to have a player in that game, but I do think that... The thing with Mbomo is I normally would start him, but because there's a hamstring, we're not certain on the start. And even if he does start, there's always that inkling that it could go during the game. Burnley... They're going to rough him up, aren't they? I don't think he's going to have an afternoon without any buffeting, shall we say. I think Tarkowski's going to do his usual agricultural challenges, I imagine, throughout the game. But Toney should take the most of those. But I do think, when there's a little bit of doubt and it's a close call, I've just gone with Hwang because it'd be nice to watch Everton Wolves on Monday with a player in that game. And I think Hwang offers me something as well. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. Presumably you got Mbomo and Toney for Norwich and Newcastle after Burnley away, but I mean it's a good fixture, and I can understand your reasons for benching because we're not 100% sure on Mbomo starting. So, and as you say, if he's rushed back from injury, then there's a chance that he gets a setback in that game. So, but who knows? I think obviously you play him in the next two fixtures, and I'm jealous of that double up myself against Norwich and Newcastle. I might even move Rafinha to Mbomo for next week, but who knows?
Right. Interesting that we're going with Mbomo, not Bomo or Mbremo, or it's Mbomo today.
It changes from week to week, Mark. I can't get it right. Mbomo.
I was like watching the coverage of the Brentford games now to see what the commentator will go with, because it's almost like a raffle, isn't it? Which one? See what it's going to be tonight.
It reminds me of Rosicky back in the day for Arsenal. I never used to get that right either. I mean, it's always difficult. I'm sure there's plenty of other names we get wrong. I
always used to like the Tarkowski rather than Tarkovsky as well. And some people still keep the Tarkowski alive and Tarkovsky alive, but no, it's often people get that one right now.
Personal preference, I think. But yeah, so you've gone Jota. Explain Jota over the likes of Mason Mount or who else is it? Who else is that? Is it Mason Mount?
Mount was in my team until the price rise last night, and I used that 0-1 to get Hwang in, basically, because without that price rise, I couldn't afford this team. So I've done quite well with the price rises, because Foden and Mount have both gone up 0-2, which to get two players going up 0-2 in a week is a novelty, isn't it? Oh, normally we play our wildcards over the international break and go, we're going to make loads of money, and then like one player goes up 0-2, and that's not one. That's probably one you want to keep anyway. So I'm quite happy to get the 0-1 off Mount. So I've used that to get this team. But yeah, I was thinking, Mount is probably the best bet for the next two. There's no question. He's got better fixtures. He's probably going to start the next two while Lukaku's out. And he's off the back of the hat-trick. So I've probably made an error there in the short term. Basically, the strategy is I want to see if I can work out the Jota rotation, because I do think that when you've got a player who's potentially playing centre-forward for Liverpool as a differential, that is an explosive differential, right? He got double figures at United. Every time he starts, I'm thinking, well, that could be a double figure return, and how many people around me have got Jota? Right? It's a differential. So I think that's, for me, of those options in that bracket, he's the best one to have. I think he's even better than Foden when on the pitch, because the role he plays in a team that's the most attacking. So for now, I'm happy to buy that ticket and see how I get on. But, I won't make a transfer next week, hopefully. And then I think I'll be moving Wang to Broha when Broha's fit for Norwich, hopefully in game week 12. That'll give me a bit of money. And then I'll look at Jota at that point and see if I failed to catch his starts. And if it's going to be a problem to me, I'll move off him. But for now, I'm going with that.
I completely agree. I really like Jota. I think if I had the choice, if I wasn't wildcard, I think I would just stay with him. I think what you were saying before the stream is if either of us were playing centre forward for Liverpool and stood in front of the goal, we'd probably get maybe one goal occasionally.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know about the pressing side of it. I think we'd be like Ronaldo, wouldn't we? We'd be just strutting around like going like that, putting our hands in the air because we're not getting the ball. I don't think we'd be playing Klopp's heavy metal football, would we? So. But yes, the fact is, if you're playing centre forward for Liverpool, you're going to get chances, right, in that team. The beauty of that Liverpool team is, unlike City, the goals are all coming from the front three, and normally the assists are as well. Obviously, Keita did well at Old Trafford, but that's not the norm. It's normally the front three that score the goals. So if the fact is Jota's going to play, 65% of games or of minutes, so we say. He's going to get about 65% of minutes, I would say, over the season. That's a pretty good offering. For that
Absolutely.
price,
Yeah.
So I think it's worth trying and then see how I get on.
Absolutely. I've just noticed Livramento, third bench, is absolute blasphemy, Mark. How are you going to look him in the eye when he gets returns for you in the future weeks?
Yeah, that was a tough call. I do like Janssen, right? I think one of the things that we're looking at with Brentford is they've got great fixtures, so I'm getting on Toney and Mbeumo, right? Yeah, of course, right? But what about the centre-backs? Because actually, in every game I've seen, almost, when Brentford need a goal, it seems to be that the major threat is at set plays. Like they win long throws or they win corners, and then teams are desperate. I mean, Chelsea did, Leicester did, desperately trying to hang on off this aerial assault that Brentford serve up in the last 20 minutes. So I think against weaker teams, that's just going to be more prevalent, and probably Pinnock, Janssen, Zenga, will get something, one or two goals over this next 4 or 5 games. So that's why I've gone Janssen. And Burnley, despite being well equipped, are pretty weak at set plays defensively. So You never know.
It was one of my picks on the Scoutcast this week, actually, Janssen. 3 big chances in the last 6 game weeks, which is more than any other defender. So as you say, he's pretty good at set pieces, and I think he's definitely going to follow up with a goal at some point. Hopefully, he's not benched while he gets it for you, but he's a good person to call on if you ever get rotation in your side. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good all-round team. I posted this really redundant stat about Son earlier. The fact that he's blanked in every single Man United game he's played other than the 2021 season, in which he killed it with 2 goals and 2 assists. Pretty redundant in terms of historical stats, but I think Man United were a little bit better back in the day and suffering from low morale with their, obviously, Liverpool defeat. So Son, I think, probably could get a decent return against Man United this week. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd probably be more surprised if he didn't haul this week. Considering Man United probably play with a little bit more possession than other teams, and Son probably tends to struggle in the easier contained games. So yeah, I think that's a really good pick, and obviously you've got him for game week 12.
That's what it's about.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know what we're going to get out of Spurs and United. I mean, they're both low on confidence, right? So that could breed a really edgy 0-0 or 1-0 either way, couldn't it? Or a very dull 1-1. Or it could be that we get an early goal and it's just floodgates. But so I don't know. I'm not really concerned about Son for these next 2. I think he's always a good bet to have in your team anyway. It's funny because when when the wild cards are played, I think it was Tom Freeman played his wild card a few weeks back, and I looked at it and went, oh, he's done well there. He's got Son in early. And then Tom was really unlucky with the phantom injury, ended up transferring Son out, and then Son did play and got points. So I've kind of looked back at that and thought, well, if I admired Tom's wild card back then and he had Son, I've got to move for him now and get him in because, I had Kane, obviously, right? So I think one of the reasons why I had to wild card, I think, was because I trapped myself by going Kane, hoping that against West Ham I'd see him build on the Newcastle performance, because I thought he was decent against Newcastle, but he just went straight back into his shell.
Yeah.
And I think the problem there was because I had Kane, I didn't have the money to move to Foden with free transfers, even with hits. So it meant I had to wild card to get Foden, basically. Yeah,
I mean, I'm really jealous of people who own Foden. I think he's a great shout. I can't get to him easily. But yeah, going back to the Spurs guys, I think Kane, he's a bit lacklustre at the moment. Don't know what's wrong with that. I think Son is the better pick. And I think plenty of people fell foul of that phantom COVID positive test, and then suddenly it was negative again. So pretty unlucky for those owners. But I think, Son's a great option. Hopefully Spurs return back to their usual attacking strength soon, and Kane gets into form as well, because obviously that will help Son. So I think we've all got to think of ways of getting Son back in our team along with Foden. I can definitely do that in 2 moves. So fingers crossed in the next few weeks, I'll just be a bit slower than everyone else. But so talk to me about Foster over Sanchez. I think it's probably an easier shout for you than it is than me. But Sanchez playing Liverpool, so that says it all really. But for people who've got the shout Foster versus Ramsdale or Foster versus McCarthy or whoever, I think Foster against Southampton, who are one of the worst underperforming sides in the league and consistently underperforming, isn't a bad shout. And even if they don't test Foster, clean sheet with 6 points is better than nothing, right?
I'm hoping Armstrong plays for Southampton.
I'm sure he will.
Because he takes a lot of shots from distance, where he just takes a lot of shots, right? And I think his conversion rate is like 4% or something. So effectively, if Armstrong plays, you're guaranteed that Foster's going to probably get a save point just off the back of shots from Armstrong. So that's in my thinking. Southampton lack a cutting edge, don't they? And Bro has given them that, but he's not going to be on the pitch today. So, and Watford come into the game off the back of the victory, don't they? So their tails are up, the crowd will be behind them. I don't see it being a game of goals. So I think it could be snatched 1-0 either way. And I'm obviously hoping it's going to be Watford who take it with a clean sheet.
Exactly. So Southampton, just to clarify, I think they're fairly middling for attacking stats. XG, they're 13. I think it's in the middle of the table, but they've underperformed by 4 or 5 goals. So 8 goals per. So it's 8 goals over the entire season. That's less than 1 goal per game. And Ranieri's side are in good form after that 5-2 win at Everton. Hopefully that continues if we're putting Foster in goal. And as you say, if Adam Armstrong has some pot shots from far away, which he tends to shoot from pretty far away, then Foster's save potential goes up. So I think it's a decent shout. What do you think of, I think FPL General mentioned a couple of days ago about taking decisions out of the game. I mean, there's a lot of people that would say, I want as plenty of decisions as possible to make, which is what we're doing with Foster over the likes of Sanchez. He was advocating for playing your set and forget keeper constantly, and then you'll never get disappointed with any sort of weird hauls that they get. What's your perception of that? Or
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it all depends on, and if you can own that decision and be content with it, right? I mean, I look at this and go, if it doesn't come in for me, if Sanchez keeps the clean sheet at Liverpool against the odds, then, to be honest, if he does that, we've got bigger problems. So I have, because I've got Salah captain, I've got Jota as well. So I'm in real trouble. So I'm going to be less worried about the fact I got my keeper wrong. I'm more worried about what am I going to do with the rest. So, I think it's easier if you've got Sanchez. Ramsdale, I'd probably play him, to be honest, because I think that Leicester-Arsenal game is going to be, it's really difficult to call. I mean, any game with Leicester in it, I think is difficult to call. And Arsenal, I think they're 2 of the most unpredictable teams in the Premier League, actually. I don't know what we'll get from either team. It could be, I think Ramsdale should get some saves because Leicester will take shots. Plenty of them, I expect. But will they get gilt-edged chances against him and score a goal? Possibly. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of those keepers gets a clean sheet in that fixture, right? So, I'd probably play Ramsdale. But Sanchez at Liverpool, Liverpool are just, the chances that Brighton will keep Liverpool out are pretty minor, I would say, in the form that they're in. I've been as impressed this season with Liverpool as I was in the Championship winning season. So I do not see them failing to score today against Brighton. So therefore, I'm happy with that decision, and I'm not going to beat myself up. If it goes wrong, I'm not going to be wringing my hands going, well, that was a mistake, and I'm not going to have to do a long post-mortem on why I chose Foster over Sanchez. It's pretty obvious. I think Watford are more likely to get the clean sheet. End of story. That's it. So exactly. I think with Ramsdale, it's a lot harder. Right? I would say General is right if you don't own Sanchez. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's move on to my team. And just following on that goalkeeper comment, I have Ramsdale, but I'm benching him for Foster.
Oh, okay. Big mistake. You're going to beat yourself up about it majorly, probably.
But
that's fine. Yeah.
I'm not sure I can see Leicester not scoring against Arsenal. And Vardy's record against Arsenal is very good, and he seems to be back. I'm not... It's so 50-50, though, and... I think the underperforming thing for Southampton sort of convinced me, but I think whoever I put in, I'm going to get it wrong. It's one of those 50-50 decisions. So I made one transfer this week, Semedo to Reece James. I had exact money for it. I couldn't afford Chilwell. I probably would have gone him if I had the cash, but I'm worried quite a lot of potential benchings this week. Reece James could definitely get benched. De Bruyne could get benched again. Rafinha might not be fit. I mean, who knows? But I mean, surely Reece James plays because as Piliqueta was meant to be injured, and he seems to be back now. But my reasoning is that Chelsea rotate their centre backs seemingly quite often, and they've played Chalobah in the most recent 2 Premier League games. They've played Thiago Silva in the last one, and they played Rudiger. So presumably, I'm hoping that Azpilicueta and Christensen come back into that 3 at the back and potentially just play Chilwell and Reece James at wing back. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. But then again, Azpilicueta could play right wing back. I really don't know. I think Chilwell is probably the most nailed in that side, ironically. Considering
there was an article today, isn't it? I think it was shared up by Zoff or Big Man Bakar, I'm not sure who shared it up, but I read it this morning where Tuchel has made some comments about the 2 wing backs, Chilwell and James. I'd love James to be of the same status as Chilwell, and you'd feel as secure about his starts, but I don't think we can at the moment. But James, I really want James in my wildcard, really. I really want to pick a secure starter, Reece James, but he's not that, so I couldn't have him, right? But it's something I'm going to look at. One of the things, if I do move off Jota, it could be to go forward at the back with James, because I do think that if Chilwell and James both start, they're going to be absolute gold, because the way it seems Tuchel's looking at that Cancelo blueprint and tucking his wing backs inside a lot more, asking them to get into the box, a bit like we're seeing from Trent and like we've seen from Cancelo for a while. So I think that James could be a great pick, but at the moment there is that little bit of anxiety over his start, and until that's gone, I don't know if I want to make him. I don't want another player like that when I've already got 2 or 3 already.
Exactly, and it's something that I'm definitely concerned about, but I was tied by team structure and availability, really. I've got Livramento to come in if James does get benched, but the problem with James is he's pretty good for those 1-minute cameos, isn't he? Which is really annoying. Yeah, so it's a tricky one. I can imagine against the weaker sides that hopefully Tuchel will play a more attacking wing backs, because I think James obviously offers more than Azpilicueta, so just holding my hopes out for that. De Bruyne, it seems to be a bit of a pain for me, because there's a lot of competition in those centre spots with Bernardo Silva and Gundogan. Normally plays Rodri. But I mean, De Bruyne is surely one of those nailed players that needs to play most of the games. I mean, his benching last week was really frustrating for me, who had brought him in at the same time.
I think De Bruyne's fitness is the issue, right? I don't think we're getting the full story on him. I think there's probably quite major concerns about his ability now to play back-to-back matches, and we're getting suggestions of it from the player himself, and we're getting suggestions of it by the way that Pep is rotating him more. And so I actually think, soon we're going to get a bit more clarity on it, and it's going to become clear that De Bruyne is struggling, I think, for fitness. He obviously he takes a battering, right? So, I think his ability to be robust and be resilient in terms of injuries is reducing quite a lot, or has reduced. And I think Pep's got that in mind. So they've got Bruges in the week, right? So it's whether or not they need to start him in that game. If Pep feels he does, and he may not start today, but I think he'll be all right. I think you'll get him today, but
long term it might be a bit more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's a player I'd want full time. I mean, if he was like 9-10 million, it might be worth the risk, but the price he's at, yeah, you've got to look at Son, haven't you, really, soon anyway? So that's the way in, isn't it?
I agree. I've already lined up a 2 transfer move in 2 game weeks' time. De Bruyne and Rafinha out for Son and Foden, which I think is a fairly decent mood if Foden keeps his place. But I guess if you bring in a Man City player, you've got to expect them to play 3 and 4, 4 and 5, something like that. But yeah, De Bruyne's fitness is definitely a concern. And if we're not getting the full story, then something we just have to intuitively analyse, and that's guesswork at the end of the day. So not a too happy De Bruyne owner really, but I only owned him for 1 game and he got benched, so that's a bit of recency bias, but here we go. Another player I want to talk about, I think is, it's going to be quite a difficult decision whether to hold or to sell, is Antonio. With the upcoming games that he plays Chelsea, Liverpool and City in the next 5 after Aston Villa. Is he a keep for you in this good form, or have you noticed that he's been sliding in those stats?
He's a keep for me, I think. I think at the moment, while there's no Bamford, there's no Calvert-Lewin, there's no real mid-price options that jump out at me. I don't think selling Antonio is an option. I think what you've got to do is that, I think it'd be risky benching him, but against Liverpool, against City, if you've got a Livramento with a good fixture, or if you've got an Mbumo, I mean, I want to play Janssen next week at home to Norwich, obviously, so I'm going to consider benching Antonio at Liverpool, right? So against Liverpool, I don't like to do that because I think Antonio's got a chance of getting a goal against anybody given the way he plays. I'm not seeing any fitness concerns of him. I'm not sensing that. If anything, I'm sensing that he's got more confidence in his body than he's had for many seasons, to be honest. He seems to be pressing. He seems to be chasing lost causes. He seems to be putting himself up against defenders physically. So he's not, as we saw last season, at times preserving energy or not putting himself against the centre-back. He's going full on, right? Because as an owner, you're watching him flinching every time he does that, but he seems to be just bouncing. Defenders are bouncing off him, aren't they? So I don't have, unlike De Bruyne, I don't look at him and think there's problems here. His body's breaking down. I'm not seeing that. And West Ham are winning games, so I think the fatigue, they're overcoming that through the adrenaline of winning matches. So I don't see a problem with him at the moment. I mean, he's a keep for me at least until Bamford comes back into the equation.
It's a really interesting one for me because I thinking from the other end of the spectrum, really. I completely agree with you with his fitness. I think he's in really good shape, but definitely watching him in the most recent games, he seems to be a little bit sluggish in terms of getting into those decent positions. And I mean, he got his goal against Spurs, of course, but that was a tap in from close range. And of course, if he gets himself in those positions, there's no reason why he can't continue to get those decent chances. But it's just the recent performances, they don't really encourage me compared to the start of the season. And that's something that is definitely on my mind. I'm just wondering whether there are better options in these next 5 games that you could upgrade to the likes of maybe Jesus. Have you thought? I mean, Gianni's an advocate for Jesus at the moment, playing really well on that right wing for City. Seems to be playing more often than not. He's a little bit more expensive than Antonio, but I mean, I don't know. I'm looking to get rid. I'm looking to get rid of Antonio.
You? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll take much to change your mind, though. Villa's not a bad fixture for him. West Ham done well there last season. Yeah, I don't like betting against West Ham and Antonio at all at the moment because I just think the momentum that Moyes has built, and Antonio, he's playing with a smile on his face. I don't know. I think that he could easily return at Villa, and so I think that. I don't know if you're going to be able to build a convincing argument for getting rid of him with me at the moment. But, a couple of sluggish performances and signs that the Europa League is having its effect on the West Ham, then perhaps. But at the moment, I've built a squad with the idea that if I don't fancy him, I can bench him. But until I I don't like Jesus as an alternative myself because, again, he's right in that rotation. And has he got a hole in him? Possibly. I don't think any of the City attackers have got holes in them, really. Foden got one rather fortunately, but I think that even when they win 5-0, the points are often spread. So I think, if anything, Antonio gives me more chance of double figures than Jesus.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because potentially, even if Antonio is in poor form at the moment in terms of what he's doing on the pitch, not necessarily what he's scoring, if he's scoring in those down stages of form, then that even makes him a better option when he does get those purple patches, when he has the chance to score braces or hat-tricks against the lower sides. And so maybe you are right. Maybe the case of keeping him and maybe using the rest of your squad to bring off the bench and maybe bench Antonio in the Liverpool game, maybe even the City game, maybe the Chelsea game is a better shout. And that's definitely something I have to consider. My initial thought earlier in the week was to move Antonio to a midfielder. Obviously, that would take two moves, maybe a Jota, maybe a Foden, whoever, and maybe that 3-5-2, maybe a power 5 could be a better option in the next 5. Certainly something to consider for maybe people who are playing a 3-5-2 already. But yeah, I can get your argument for why Antonio could be a long-term shout, and I think medium term he's okay. He just doesn't really invigorate my FPL thoughts at the moment because of those different
I think it's because I think also because he's so well owned as well. He's always going to be tempted to look at him and go, well, that's a way I can be different, and I can have somebody who can make a difference to my rank if I, and I think there's reason to think, well, I could go down to Broha or when in fit or Wang maybe, but I don't think the upgrade options are that appealing while there's no Calvert-Lewin or Bamford about. I don't see Jesus really yet. Maybe, maybe more starts, more goals, more points. I might be more convinced, but I think Antonio's a really hard sell.
Yeah, I think this Aston Villa game is going to be a definitely an audition for what to do with him in the next 5. If I continue to see sluggishness, then I might be convinced to sell. But if he puts in a good performance, then that falls back right into keeping him. So we will see. Rides on one game for me, which seems silly, but hey. So what Toney's chances at the moment? He seems to be struggling with open play goals at the moment. Obviously, we think with these decent fixtures coming up, Burnley, Norwich and Newcastle, that he's going to start scoring. But his assist potential in particular seems to be better at the moment. So what do you think about Toney's goal chances? Are they going to up during this fixture schedule?
Yeah, I think we've got to think that. I mean, I think as talked about a theory that against the weaker teams we'll see Toney more in the box and Brentford looking to give it him service. He hasn't really had good service. I think he's had a couple of chances both offside and taken them, but I haven't seen crosses coming into the box regularly for Toney to win in the air or convert on the ground. But I think that could change. I think that the Brentford wing backs should, against weaker teams, get more opportunity to cross the ball, get more service into him. I also think that he's going to relish the Burnley game. I think that he'll look at that as, well, this is a physical duel with the Burnley centre-backs, and when thrust into a physical duel, he's often come out on top this season, even against defenders where you'd expect them to handle him. So I do think this is a good fixture for him, actually. He's always got the penalties, of course. So I didn't really worry about moving towards him for this run. I do like the theory that this could be, he'll change in what he's offering. His data will start skewing towards more shots than being an assister. And we looked at the defences that Brentford have faced so far. It's like 8 of the top 9 defences so far in terms of minutes per XG conceded. So they've got the weaker defences to come. So they're just, as we saw Chelsea against Norwich, right? I was actually sceptical about, well, will Chelsea thrash them? They haven't really done much in terms of creating opportunities for Lukaku. And lo and behold, Norwich turned out to be so bad, Chelsea absolutely thrashed them. So I think we've got to look at Brentford with easier fixtures and go, well, whatever the data has shown us so far, we've got to forget some of that, because actually the easier opponent just opens up, it'll open up more chances. They'll make mistakes. Like the defences they're playing against now will make errors and present Toney with chances. And the high press that Brentford have got will draw mistakes. So I think we'll see in the next few games, Toney and Mbeumo winning the ball really high up and scoring straight away from one pass.
I
and
completely
Mbeumo to
agree.
Toney or Toney and Bruyne. So I think he'll just get more chances like that through defensive errors.
I mean, not to forget that Tony's had a couple of disallowed goals recently as well. So I mean, that's probably just been a bit unlucky. Probably even more unlucky is he's been feeding in on Mbeumo. Oh, I'm on Mbeumo now, damn it.
Oh yeah, you said Mbeumo. Yeah, Mbeumo. Did I say it? I don't know what I said. Anyway,
I don't know. I mean, horses for courses. But he's hit the woodwork 6 times, isn't he? And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure
crazy.
plenty of Tony assists if they had gone in, and obviously Mbeumo owners would be happy. But I think once you go back to the championship level of opponent, I mean, where Brentford scored the most goals in that league, then there's no reason why they can't emulate the same form and the same amount of goals scored. So I think maybe Tony's can get some tap-ins as well would be great. And of course, he's on penalties as well, which is
Yeah,
a great
he's a brilliant penalty taker, isn't he? He's one of the players where when he's stepping up to take a penalty, you don't really have that anxiety. I think I think Frank has said he's probably the best penalty taker in Europe, which is going a bit far, maybe, but he is very good at them. So yeah.
The deadline's passed, Mark, and I forgot to change Foster back to Ramsdale. So, oh well.
Oh, so you've gone with Foster, have you?
I have gone with Foster, yeah.
Well, that might be a happy accident. You never know.
It's definitely not an accident. I definitely did it intentionally. I think it's your. You're probably right. I probably will regret benching Ramsdale, but it's what it is.
I don't. I think there's logic in picking Foster, and I don't think there's many weeks you're going to prefer Foster over your first choice keeper. So I think, and what's the damage going to be? Is Ramsdale going to get a double figure return? Penalty save? Maybe, but...
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah, that would be awful. That's going to be snipped and put out later.
No.
It's fine.
Oh, God. I think I am going to do Match of the Day challenge now. I can't face watching Leicester Arsenal for a...
So you got Rafinha, right?
I have got Rafinha against Norwich. I think.
What are you thinking about that?
I mean, obviously, Leeds are struggling without Bamford and Ayling, and they've got some youngsters playing for them. That Gelhardt guy, God, I said that with a country accent. Gelhardt. He seems lively. I don't know whether he gets consistent games, but
oh yeah, he's one for the future for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously Rafinha against Norwich. I think Leeds win convincingly, as would any other team against Norwich, really. So I'm very happy if he plays 90 minutes. I really hope he plays, because I think he played centre forward in last weekend. So, I mean, he could be in for a haul. But typically all his goals come from outside the box. So it's maybe a bit of a counterintuitive mistake having Rafinha play at centre forward, because it's a different role to play. So regardless, I'm very happy owning him for Norwich, but maybe going forwards, his fixtures get a little bit tougher, and maybe it's easier to let go of him. But
I just think at the moment he's been cursed by a few injuries, and I think that's what worries me. I think under normal circumstances, Bielsa wouldn't take a risk of him, because I think he needs a break, and getting into that Brazil squad was probably the worst thing that could happen for Bielsa. He wanted his player protected. But at the moment, I guess, with so many injuries, he's probably got to play him in this game, because I don't think Leeds can afford to lose it and then slip into that mire of a relegation scrap. So they don't, I don't fear for them, because they've got good players and they'll get out of it even if they got into one. But yeah, I think it's much like De Bruyne at the moment. He strikes me as a player that his body needs a bit of a rest, but I don't know if he's going to get it because they need him.
Is that something you've definitely considered on wildcard, just straying away from the players who seem to be overworked almost?
Well, I think Rafinha, if you just said at the start of the season, I haven't had a Rafinha yet, and that is pretty remarkable, because you look at him, I think he's a bargain, and he definitely is, but Leeds have yet to click, have they, really? So I think when Leeds are up to full strength, he's a player that you should have him, really, because he's integral to their creating chances. And when Bamford's in the team, they've got a player who can take them. At the moment, they haven't. They've got Rodrigo, they've got... maybe Gelhardt will play, but is he a converter of chances? It's a lot to ask of a young player to come in and provide that for you. I don't know how many goals Leeds have got in them unless it comes from Rafinha at the moment. And like you said, most of his efforts come from outside the box. He's not a natural goal poacher, is he? Well, maybe he is, and we haven't seen it yet. But no, I don't know. I just don't think... I want to invest in Leeds, but I don't think the time is right. If I had Rafinha today, I'd play him and start him and hope he's all right, because it's Norwich, isn't it?
It's more hope than anything else, really. But
yeah, there's a lot of hope you're going with this week, isn't there?
Please.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a super chat. That's random. From Nick. Let's answer it, but please no more super chats. I think Az must have just left it off from the Q&A. But did I make a mistake in benching Reece James over Kyle Walker this week? I mean, I don't know. We discussed Reece James earlier, that the fact that he could very well be benched. The security of start isn't there. Even though I've gone for him, I couldn't afford Chilwell. But I mean, there's a good chance that Azpilicueta plays. I think probably Kyle Walker does start, but then Zinchenko is back and Cancelo could play at right back. So I don't think anyone can really answer that question clearly, Mark.
I think Cancelo's more likely to be benched than Walker this week. And Walker, if he is benched, probably wouldn't come off the bench. Probably you'd be all right, you get your sub on. So I think it's okay to bench Walker, to start Walker over Reece James. I think Reece James's start is about 50-50, 60-40 at best. So I think there is clear doubt that he starts at Newcastle. And if he doesn't start, he's more likely to come off the bench than Walker. So I think you've got the order right there.
Yeah, fairly decent. Yeah, I hope that's another one. I hope Cancelo doesn't. But the thing is, in Pep and his confidence, he was ringing the praises for Zinchenko as he usually does, and that normally means nothing. It gets all our FPL minds ticking, going, "Oh my God, Cancelo's going to be benched." But as you say, a lot of hope this week.
You've got James, Cancelo, Rafinha, and De Bruyne.
Oh no! Don't say it. Even Mason Mount could.
It could all. No chance. You'll be all right there. You'll be fine. It'll be fine for you, I'm sure. And actually, De Bruyne could be a great differential if you start. So, I think you've got to have. I think our teams are starting to look very similar again. And I think I've gone Jota for that little bit of something different. I've started Wang this week for a little bit of something different. And you've got players like De Bruyne who gives you that as well. And I think sometimes for our sanity, you've got to have something like that in the team. Otherwise, it starts to feel like we're all on the same production line, getting the same points. I mean, it's bad enough at the moment. One of the reasons why I got Jota is like, if Liverpool win, it's like, well, it means nothing. Everyone's got Trent, everyone's got Salah captain. So I don't want, if you're going to extract some fun out of watching matches with a fantasy team running in the background, you want the odd player like De Bruyne and Jota to give you that little bit of joy. And yes, it might not be the best thing for our ranks, but we'll see.
It's a really good way of thinking about it. I mean, at the end of the day, we play FPL for enjoyment and we want to have that advantage over other players. So Salah captain's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm sure you talked about it on Black Box, and I think everyone in the community has been talking about him as perma captain. But I don't know whether you conform to the same philosophy that if captaincy was removed from the game, that it would be better. I certainly am in two minds about it, but that's just removing one decision. But if we're all perma captaining Salah, then it does become that sort of environment where we're taking that decision out of everyone's hands.
Yeah, so, and then I guess there's more pressure to get your transfers right because you can't make up ground with the captaincy. It'd be interesting to see how long Salah is perma captain, how long we feel like that. What will it take? Will it take 2 or 3 blanks? Will it take a bench in? I'd like to think that in 5 weeks' time we won't still be thinking, oh, it's got to be Salah, and maybe we got the gumption to go a Kane or a Son during Spurs' fixtures, or the gumption to go Ronaldo during United's fixtures. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty dull if that is out of the game. I like the captaincy, I think. I mean, I haven't really thought about it. I think there were other things I'd change in FPL before the captaincy. But yeah, I don't. I mean, I've done okay with it this season. So, I think it's a thing that does spice things up or can spice things up. I just think making a judgment on it, whether the captaincy is a good thing off the back of what we've just seen with Salah and Havertz, I think that's probably dangerous because that was ridiculous, the way that fell for Havertz owners. So I think we judge it again in 3 or 4 weeks, and if Salah's still the perma captain, I might agree that it is very dull indeed. What I don't like is we can't enjoy and get any FBL pleasure out of Salah getting any goals, which is a bit of a shame, isn't it?
It depends on his effective ownership, of course, because there will be some that go against the grain, and he might not reach 200% effective ownership every week, so still some rank to be gained. But as you say, FPL changes so quickly from week to week. We could be completely having a different conversation next week for all we know. And it's only 2 months until the African Cup of Nations, where Salah's probably going away with Egypt. So
well, yeah.
So who knows?
That's going to really shake things up, isn't it? So that's going to be really interesting. So,
it seems like Salah's getting all of his goals in before that.
Absolutely.
Liverpool
Get the golden boot in the bag before then, yeah.
Exactly. Liverpool obviously going to look completely different up front without Mane and Salah. So, yeah, it would be an interesting... in terms of the league, like removing FPL from the picture at the moment, just looking at City, Chelsea, Liverpool for the title. Maybe Liverpool suffer during that period. We just don't know. But yes, I think we've been talking for 40 minutes now, so it's 10 minutes past the deadline, and I think we'll leave it there. It was a great discussion over our teams, and thanks for coming on, Mark.
No, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, and obviously next time you can have Az on, but obviously at the moment
never together. No, absolutely
can't
not.
Share,
we'll try and get you both on.
Yeah, all right, that'd be great.
Well, best of luck for game week 10. I hope your wildcard team yields great results for you.
I'm nervous. What you always fear of a wildcard team is that the team you got rid of is going to outperform your wildcard team, and it could happen. Also, inevitably, come Saturday evening, there'll be lots of people on Twitter going, Mark wasted his wildcard, etc., etc. So
no, you're fine.
I'm used to it. So it's I just want to, in a way, it's a relief to get it played, and then we can just get on with the week to week now. So it's a feeling of relief and trepidation about this weekend, but we'll see how it goes. Good luck to you as well, Ted, with all your hopes.
Thank you. Can you hope for me too? I need as much as possible.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Thanks for everyone for joining us in the chat, and best of luck for game week 10 for you too. And we'll catch you next time. See ya.